ghouls, goblins, grannies in horrifying eyeshadow, and ghastly guests. Welcome to the month of Horrotober on the podcast from the After Movie Diner, where no creepy castle is left unbloodied, where no dark passageway is left unexplored, no night is left unbumped, and no spooky cabin full of voluptuous wenches is left standing. Every week we will be delving deep into the uncharted, foggy bowers of man's domain, pulling out, dusting off, and wiping free of sticky dribble a series of terrifying, pants-soiling, and downright frightful films from the horror genre. There'll be walking corpses, snowbound massacres, angry, deathly policemen, freakish fanged beasties, and Lawrence Fishburne aplenty. Join us now, dear listener, if ye be strong of heart, commanding of bowel, and firm of buttock, for our dance with the morbid, squalid, maddening, and macabre is now about to begin. You have been warned.
Okay, so where are we? We're in the Waverley Restaurant.
Waverley Restaurant. Very nice.
Which is on 6th Avenue.
Probably old-fashioned.
Probably
old-fashioned. Wooden booths with like leather.
It's actually comfortable though.
Really
nice and
leather seats.
Co-hooks. Jim does love a good co-hook. And we're here in the Waverley Diner, having just been to the IFC Centre, which is a cinema at 3rd and...
On the Avenue of the Americas?
Yes, on the Avenue of the Americas, which is 6th Avenue down here in the village. And we've just seen... Well, what have we seen? I'm going to let my co-host
we just went
Jim
to
Wallace...
Dario Argento's Dracula in 3D.
Yeah.
Are you ready to choose?
Hi guys.
I'm not ready yet,
Yeah.
but you...
Well, if you're not ready,
I'm not ready yet, I've just got back, so...
Take your time.
Okay, thanks, man.
I'll be 2 minutes, sorry man, thank you.
So yeah, we went and saw Dario Argento's Dracula in 3D.
God, that looks amazing.
What? Which one?
The Waverley Melt.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get the Waverley Melt.
The juicy burger on grilled American cheese and fried onions.
Yeah, I think I'm going to get that because I like the idea of like doing a diner speciality when we come to these places. You know what I mean?
Why not?
Yeah, and a cup of coffee. Right?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
The Waverley Melt Deluxe.
Well, it's only $2 for French fries.
With a side order of gravy.
Yeah, all right. I'll get the deluxe too.
Cool. All right. Excellent. Yes, we've just been to see
Dario Argento's
Dracula.
Which, okay, so the reason that we went to see it was because...
Okay, fellas.
Okay, yeah, cool. Can I get the Waverley Melt Deluxe?
Medium, well done, or you like?
Well done.
I'll have the same. Can I get my medium well? And I'll also take a side of brown gravy.
And gravy. What else?
Can I get a cup of coffee?
Coffee. Sorry, you sir?
No, I'm fine with water.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, so we decided to go and see it because when I read that it was coming to the IFC Centre, it had Rutger Hauer as Van Helsing. It was a horror movie that hadn't got terrific reviews.
I mean, it's been universally panned as
panned.
one of the worst
Universally
things ever.
panned as being awful.
But I have a theory as to why. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, well, but we wanted to go and see it because it definitely fitted in with our interesting cinema, interesting horror movie, preferably like a D-rated horror movie that we could go see.
Well, I was actually reading.
This, by the way, can I just say, quickly,
sure.
This, by far, of all the movies that we've gone to see, Pacific Rim, The Colony, and Stranded, far and away the best.
Yeah, you came out loving it.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was terrific.
Okay, well,
and not in an ironic hipster
no, I know.
Oh, great! Thank you very much.
No, I'm well aware that you don't mean it in an ironic way. I know that you mean it in a Jim way, which is fantastic, and I can't wait to delve into exactly what is a Jim way.
But let's hear your theory.
Well, my theory on why Dario Argento's later movies are routinely panned and considered to be awful is because the over-the-top critical praise that his 70s stuff gets. Now, his 70s stuff is, like, cool in terms of he has a really interesting cinematographer working with him, and he has Goblin at the height of their power cranking out, insane 70s electronica funk grooves over the top of David Hemmings or whoever, Donald Pleasance or whatever, name your movie, wandering around being bonkers. So they're huge amounts of fun, but what they're not is particularly well scripted or acted, any of them, you know what I mean? Like none of them. You don't go into an Argento movie going, you know what,
given what I've just seen, I'm not surprised.
Right, exactly. And what I'm saying is his 70s movies are given, overpraise to some extent.
Right.
And he's considered this like master of horror type thing. And I don't just mean like the Masters of Horror, the TV show, but I mean he's considered this like great Italian master, Giallo and the whole bit. Right. But, and like his later stuff, everyone's like, but I don't understand it. It's all about tits and gore. And I'm like, he was always about tits and gore. You know what I mean? It's just in the 70s you couldn't necessarily just be like
maybe
so gratuitous about it.
Maybe because everything.
But it's always been about sex and passion and gore with him. But
maybe coming out of Italy in the 70s, everything was about tits and gore.
Right.
And his visual inventiveness and style made them maybe like a big cut above all the other Giallo stuff that was coming out.
No, you're right.
Because there must reach a point where something that is really popular, like Giallo's work, then if you've got a guy who's like the best at doing that, with a definite style and feel to it, then he's got to, he is going to get a lot of,
But it's like Romero, who's worked obviously closely with Argento, especially on Dawn of the Dead, and they remain good friends. It's kind of a bit like him, like his strong, he is known, his mystique, his fame, his critical appreciation is basically on the back of 3 movies, and that's it. Like people debate Martin and the Crazies and some of the other ones he's made, and they talk about them as like some of them are really great. Some people really love them, some people really hate them, some people think they're like deep texts or whatever, but mostly it's based on night, dawn and day, and even day gets a rough knocking a lot of the time.
The best one.
Right. So what I'm saying is like, of course.
Just quickly, sorry, is there a subway underneath us?
Yeah, I think maybe. Yeah.
That's quite cool. We're sitting in a zone where you can feel the train move.
Yeah, there's a subway.
It's very we're having a very village experience. Right now.
It's awesome.
The cinema was really rickety, and you could lose your way. It was rickety.
You lost your way.
All right, okay, but I'm just saying
the chairs were comfortable. The screen.
No. It was great. But what I'm saying is, unlike the other, I like the one in Times Square, which is like really huge and open, and like strove to be modern, but at the same time was like really, really grotty. That one was really, really nice, but kind of like small and nice and self-contained. And now we're in this diner that's really nice. It's all wood and polished metal and leather seats, and like there's a train racking underneath. I'm just saying it's a very cool
You're excited.
thing.
You're enjoying.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
But my thesis basically states that like a lot of people watch Romero's later movies and they're like, well, they're not as good and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, no. They are
the same.
They're what he wants to say now, what he wants to be doing now. The fact that you look back at 70s stuff and you kind of forgive it, the rough around the edges stuff, the Dawn clearly has.
Right.
And Night to some extent, no matter how good it is, still has like rough around the edges and acting and so on. You forgive all that because you're like, oh, but it's a classic because you've been told it's a classic or because it's whatever. And Argento's similar. Now I'm not going to go to Matt for any of Argento's later work, but to look at his later stuff and be like, well, it's just tripe compared to Tenebrae. You're like, well, no. You know what I mean? It's just you watch Tenebrae through certain eyes, and you watch the later stuff expecting, like you go in with this huge expectation.
You expect it to be like a movie with all of the good things that were in Tenebrae. Although we'll get to that, but
also spirit or whatever you want to.
But with all like the 70s cheesiness like taken away and replaced with
like cool modern grooviness, whatever that is in your brain
with beards.
Right.
But neatly trimmed.
Right.
Much like what you're sporting right now, actually. In fact, you would not look out of place in a CBS police procedure.
I went to...
Are you an expert on computer hacking?
No, I went to a job interview, so I therefore trimmed around.
Everybody in After Movie Diner podcast land, keep their fingers crossed. Even though you probably won't hear this.
No, it'll be too long, but don't worry about it.
All right, just go back in the past, people of the After Movie Diner,
keep your fingers crossed.
Your fingers,
But no, so the nice thing about Dario Argento's later movies being panned much in the same way as Romero's have been, is that when I go in to... First of all, I'm not a huge Argento fan. I like the Argento that I like.
Can I put my bag over?
Sure.
By you?
I like the Argento that I like, but I'm not like a massive fan. So when I go into one of his movies...
Right.
When I went into Dracula 3D, much in the same way that like Diary of the Dead is a good example. I avoided Diary of the Dead like the plague.
God, it was pish.
I enjoyed it, but that's because, hang on a second, I avoided it like the plague for years, like literally years. It came out to rent and everything, and I still hadn't seen it. And when I finally rented it, because it was one of those, there's nothing else, and I really should watch it because I'm, such a Romero head. I sat down and I actually thought that for like a found footage zombie movie made in modern times, I actually think he did a bunch of stuff with, especially with the found footage genre, that hasn't been done before or since, that was actually really effective. And no, it didn't have necessarily the charismatic leads of like Dawn or Day or whatever. It still had enough, I felt, and enough tricks up its sleeve and things to really make it interesting.
I hated it with the Fire of 1,000 Suns.
Right.
That's okay. Different strokes.
So when I went into this tonight, I was really like, I have really low expectations. Like I
had low expectations.
I saw the trailer online, and it looked. I don't know what they did to the trailer or what it was, but the trailer looked like it had been filmed on a camcorder.
Is always very attentive to his guests.
Girls of her age have a tendency to be a bit too forward.
The creature is not human, it is a vampire. They sometimes transform their victims. It gives them extreme power.
How can you defeat a monster like that?
There are ways.
He is capable of! He is evil! Do you hear me, Van Helsing? Evil!
In the name of God, I command you, go back!
I don't know whether they rendered the trailer weirdly or whether they...
Maybe the 2D version just isn't
I don't know.
Any good.
Because what we just watched looked... maybe high, like good high def and or film. Like it looked.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a cheapo shot on a camcorder.
No, a couple of the effects were obviously cheaper.
The fire was terrible.
No, see, okay, right. We're going to get into this. We're going to get into this clip.
What, her burning to death?
Yeah, I thought that was really, really good.
Except that it was like the effect.
No, obviously it was fake.
Pish.
Obviously,
No, but the effect was pish.
No, but see, I don't agree with that. I thought the effect was really interesting. What I liked about a lot of it was like take that particular example, right? I thought what was interesting about that is normally because you would do it like realistically, you wouldn't be able to look. You know what I mean? You'd have like them on fire or whatever, and either it would be like someone who'd been set on fire, like those, they put on the fire suits, whatever, and then they just kind of go, and then they just like a blob in the middle of like a load of yellow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they do it like CGI, in which case they're going, well, we don't want to you can't focus too much on it because there's a limit to what we can show and get away with. But he clearly decided, especially with the 3D thing, well, let's just whatever effects I've got, I'm gonna use. And what I liked about the fire bit was it looked to me like what it would actually look like an artist's representation, as it were, of what it would look like to watch somebody burn to death.
Right.
You know, the way
But not realistic. And then
no, not realistic at all.
Well done.
Well done to me. Thank you very much.
Eating well.
Thank you. Thanks very much, man. Cheers.
And the gravy's coming?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
So rather than it being like, oh yeah, that's what what a great fact. It definitely looks like she's burning to death.
Right.
It was more like, a moving painting, as it were.
Right.
You could see her hair disappearing,
Sure.
and the clothes going, and then instead of being a lump, it was like I thought it was really interesting. So much of the movie, I thought, even though a lot of it looked cheap, and a lot of it, well, all of it was, aside from when Rutger turned up, like probably the worst acting I've ever seen.
I quite like the guy playing Dracula. He was all right.
Yeah, he wasn't bad actually. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, he was all right. But the dialogue was.
There you go, fellas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers, man. The dialogue was just unbelievably appalling.
Well, the dialogue, you see, this is what I think. But this is where your theory that you had about the colony would actually ring true. This was clearly written in Italian and then translated.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Which is why there was all
No, it wasn't that. There was
explanations of stuff where he's like, I must do this and what do you want for breakfast?
She's getting it. I like all the unbelievably unnecessary detail. She's getting it on the train at 10 o'clock. And so people go, someone at the right table, but what time is the train getting in?
Right.
We have to know.
Right.
Or, I've got some dinner in. Do you like lamb?
Yeah, right.
Yes, I do like lamb. Oh, end of scene.
What do you want breakfast? Do you want some eggs? No. Would you like biscuits?
No. All of this is totally unnecessary because he doesn't care about any of it. What I thought was interesting. Can I talk about what very quickly?
Well, let's just quickly run through.
Well, it's Dracula.
I have to. But
that's what I liked about it.
But I have
it
to
was
ask you the question. I have to ask you the question because there was some stuff changed in it, and there was a lot that was sped.
No.
forward.
But what was cool about it, I thought, was
there was a lot sped forward for time, and Jonathan Harker actually becomes a vampire early on, which doesn't happen in the original.
No, but here's what I liked about it. He went, all right, I'm going to make a Dracula film.
I love these fries.
Yeah, they're really good. So what am I going to do? Am I going to do what... No, this is what I liked about it. It wasn't like the CW Dracula. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like, I'm 25 and I'm Dracula.
No.
I'm fucking impeccably good looking and a bit bland.
Right.
And here's some other impeccably bland, good looking people. And we're going to pretend like this is all really important and emotional, even though it's, So there's none of that. There was no reinvention. There was no modern update.
No,
it was a proper old bloke goes to spooky village in the middle of nowhere with a castle where everybody except him knows what's going on with Dracula, right?
Right.
And what he did was what I thought was very cool was he clearly went, well look, there is no way anybody will come and see this movie who hasn't seen a lot of the
I was going to talk about this. Hang on. Yeah. Keep going.
So you've got bits where there's only three that I definitely spotted. One was he nicked Mina being the reincarnation of his dead wife
from Coppola.
Off Coppola.
There was a lot nicked from Coppola.
There was a lot nicked from Coppola. There was he nicked the
crawling up the wall thing. I seem to remember.
Yes, I can't remember where that was from, but it's definitely from something.
It's Coppola, I think.
I don't think it is Coppola. I don't think it
was ridiculous though. I did want him to look around and go.
Yeah, but it was from something. And then there was the Bela Lugosi line.
The children of the night.
Listen to what music they make. Yeah, which is great. And what you're saying is that.
Oh, there was another.
These things are already.
There was another massive homage in the movie.
But I think he's saying, look, we all know these things anyway. Like everybody knows these things, so he's just using them. Right. I think he was using them as.
Yeah, but to call it Dario Argento's Dracula,
well, I agree. No, but see, that's what I said again. What I thought worked really, really well was. I think that all that stuff, in terms of the characterization and the plot, there was nothing original there, at all. But some of the
the praying mantis.
Well, yeah. But that wasn't plot. That was visual.
Right.
What I think it was, there was some really, really, really interesting 3D. I thought.
There wasn't enough really interesting 3D.
No, see, that's what I liked about it. There was all this stuff in it. There wasn't you get your standard sword sticking out of the screen, or
you say standard, but they don't really do that anymore. That was the stuff I loved. I loved that scene where Dracula took apart the townsfolk who were
that was super cool. Yeah, but
My problem with it is that I felt like the whole movie needed to be that, and it wasn't. You just got glimpses of it. Carry on. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, no. Fair enough. No, that's legitimate. But I thought that was that. But what I liked was there were some really cool, interesting things. Like he did this thing. There were lots of shots of people in their houses and in their rooms, looking out of their windows at the outside world. And there was something about the depth of it, and how the room behind them was like really full, but yet the outside world was really big. They were like coloured in a certain way, but the outside world was coloured in a different way.
Yeah, 3D tends to shrink it and make the image look vast compared to the humans.
That particular idea of these people looking out of windows was like a series of really interesting paintings.
Oh no, Argento, in terms of framing something and filling the frame with something either interesting, beautiful, or symmetrical, has still definitely got it.
Yeah, and maybe this is why I like this film. And if I'd actually seen any of his other ones or remembered them, because I saw a couple when I was like 14, 15, and I fucking hated them.
But they're all very like that. They're all beautiful. They're all stunning. Yeah.
So perhaps because I didn't notice that when I was a teenager.
I mean, none of them make a lick of sense. None of them do. But they're all. Yeah.
But because I came this with rock bottom expectations because they're terrible reviews. And then there was so much going on in it that I thought, the train. The way that shot looked with the train and the mountains in the background and the colours of it and everything, it was amazing. And then there was the film was summed up by that one. Well, I thought it looked really cool and it was very inventive because he was saying, I haven't got, like people used to do in sci-fi movies. Like, you know what, I haven't got any money, so I'm just going to paint the background.
Right.
You know, and it looks beautiful. He's gone, I haven't got the money, but I've got 3D, so I'm going to paint the background, make it look amazing. But then use the 3D to make that look even better. The skies behind glass.
I just love that I couldn't be happier that you're sat here waxing rhapsodic.
No, I just thought it was really, really good. There was that amazing shot where he stood at the top of the stairs and she comes down into the courtyard and gets in the horse. That looked amazing. There was loads of that stuff going on.
Anytime he filmed stairs, it was like the dude who does stairs.
Who does stairs? I know who you mean. Oh yeah, it's completely gone out my brain. Escher.
That's it. There was a lot of funny angles, and the way he filmed the priest and her when they were talking, and you saw the shot. It was a typical shot, reverse shot.
Oh yeah.
But it was like a high angle.
Yeah.
That was really awesome.
I loved. There was a bit when Van Helsing and her met for the first time, and there was something about the background or something, but that it was the best 3D rendering of faces that I've yet seen. Like you could see there were like the crags in him.
Yeah.
Well,
it was really close up. You only got a hint of what was behind.
Yeah, but there's something about the way it wasn't just because it's just their faces in a frame. But something about the way the shot was constructed with the 3D cameras. It looked like nothing. By far and away, this is the best looking 3D film I've ever seen. As in. The possibilities that are inherent with using 3D as a technology.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like everything else I've seen.
There weren't any salad bowls in the foreground.
Right. It wasn't like, nonsense. This was genuinely, it looked to me like somebody trying to do something. I have to say, having just seen Gravity, I can't make the claim that this was the best. I'm sure I will change my mind, but with what I will say is, while this was delicious.
Yeah, they're good. They're like sloppy joes, but with burgers. And without the curry flavour or the spicy flavour. Anyway, what was I going to say? Two points about what you're saying, and then I'll let you go on. First of all, my feeling on 3D from day one, apart from a very occasional movie like Gravity, but my feeling on 3D is if you're not throwing stuff at the screen or sticking daggers through doors through the screen, or if you're not like ping pong batting at the screen like in House of Wax, the old Vincent Price movie or whatever, you're not using 3D. Like, to me, everyone knows 3D is a gimmick. Everyone does. So trying to pretend that it's like some incredibly important development in filmmaking technique is utter balls. And I'm sorry, as much as I love Scorsese, he needs to be slapped around the chops for going on and on about, oh yeah, well I think it's the new way and blah 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 blah. No, it's a gimmick, and unless you use it,
because he wakes up and like, I passed it. I better get DiCaprio in a movie about gangsters.
Yeah. Or anyway, but unless you're using it to thrill and excite and to like, because you see it in movies all the time. If there's a 3D movie and they happen to, with one shot, throw something at the audience or stick a broom handle out into the audience or whatever it is, like the old Friday the 13th used to, and like the old William Castle movies and stuff like that used to, audiences go, oh wow, or they like gasp, or they move out of the way or whatever. That's what people want. Like that's what they want.
At the end,
right?
Genuinely, that scared the crap out of me.
Right. What they don't want is, oh, look at the depth and look at the snow and look at the things like the, what did you say? Like the dust in the air, like making that look 3D, yeah. Or the bowl out of focus in the foreground. Like nobody gives a hell about that. Nobody cares. So. What I would appreciate and what I would say about the 3D in this one, and it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was prevalent, but there were 2 or 3 set pieces in which it was done really well in terms of the spectacle of 3D, a dagger going through the thing, something coming at the screen, whatever it was. And I really enjoyed that.
See, I would slightly
in a Friday the 13th Part 3.
And I agree, and that was really good. But what I liked about it, what I enjoyed was, I enjoyed watching it in 3D because the way the shots were put together, or the way the film was made, I thought used 3D in a way to. But if
I can just see the review now, Dario breaks new bounds in.
If all movies, they can have. Dracula, Dario Argento's Dracula 3D is fucking terrific. The After Movie Diner, if they want. I will stand by that if you'll let me speak for the After Movie Diner.
I don't care, I'm happy to go against the crest of the wave.
Right. I thought what was interesting about it was, if all movies are essentially, you turn a camera on and you point at something and you try and tell a story, well, there's lots of things going on in that, obviously. There's character and dialogue and whatever. One of the things is the spectacle of it, like what you're shooting, like how it looks. Uh-huh. And if you can use 3D to, create a look, a picture, a moving picture, in a way that hasn't been done before, in a way that hasn't been seen before, then I think that is valid. That's a valid use of the technology. And I saw things, and maybe they've been done before, I don't know. But there were definitely things in that movie where the depth of, some of it was cheesy, obviously. But what I liked about it, even the cheesy bits, like the things that were in the foreground, when Van Helsing and the priest, whatever, break into the cellar, and there's that cheesy candle in the foreground. But the thing was, at the beginning you're going, oh, it's a cheesy candle in the foreground. And then, the more 5-10 seconds go by, and then you start realizing that it's a really creepy looking fucking candle, and it starts reminding you actually a bit of Dracula, and just, it was interesting. It wasn't just a thing in the foreground. It was, it was constructed and put there.
I do think,
and I like that.
Okay. To me, to counteract this,
sure,
a little bit. But I love your enthusiasm. I love it. I love that you liked it.
I love it.
But no, I love your enthusiasm, and I couldn't be more tickled pink that you like it. I really couldn't. It's awesome. However, to give a well-rounded review of the movie, there were fairly broad sections of it where I was pretty bored. There were some bits.
Lovely.
Really good. Thanks, man.
Really good.
There were some bits where I was bored, and I was like, I can't even laugh at this. It's not very good. Then there were some bits where
I tell you who was his daughter.
Argento's
whole
daughter.
Character.
Yeah.
A whole story.
And it's immensely creepy when he has her get all naked.
Yeah, but it's like...
because it's his daughter.
Yeah, but even leaving that aside...
she's a grown woman.
Even leaving that aside...
He's like a 67-year-old man with a weird face.
But it was just unnecessary. And you felt the whole thing that she felt like she was past doing this kind of thing.
Right.
And it was all irrelevant. And she didn't believe what she was doing for a minute.
No, but...
And that dragged the whole film down.
Argento is at a place, sadly, just because of film distribution, where the low-budget exploitators of the VHS movement in the 80s are at. Whereas, in other words, if you have a few big gore scenes and you have some knockers, we'll distribute your movie. Now, he happens to like big knockers and gore scenes.
He knows a pair of knockers, yeah.
So it's
He knows his way around
it's
a pair
not
of
a problem. That happens
Another
to
quote
be
for the
in
poster.
his wheelhouse.
Another quote for the poster. Argento still knows his way around a pair of knockers.
And I have to say, they were spectacular in the movie. Anyway, that all got very quiet all of a sudden. But there were long bits that bored me. Then there were bits that were so delightfully, and I know he made a movie called Opera, but operatic. And over the top, like the priest going, Van Helsing,
Evil!
evil!
What is it about like 70s movies that they
He
can't
was
get by without a
amazing.
fat, sweaty bearded Italian?
And they had it in this one.
Yeah.
And I loved any time. So I loved all those bits. And I loved any time the dad had to do it. The dad in this movie looks like a cross between Dino De Laurentiis and Menachem Golem, the guy who ran Canon Films. He looks like one of those proper big orange-faced, short-haired, plump gentlemen who probably looks at home behind a desk with a big cigar going, "You boy, get me some coffee," whatever it is. And he was properly that guy and couldn't act his way out of a
he
tissue
was
box.
really bad. I mean, you think, fair enough, I understand why.
He looked like a studio executive who was like, I'm not long for this world, please give me one role.
I'm casting you for your knockers, you for your face.
Right.
Blokey, I'm guessing he cast him because he looks gorgeous, basically.
Who?
Harker, Jonathan
Oh,
Harker.
has there ever been a good screen Jonathan Harker? Yes, Michael Gough in the original Hammer Horror one, but apart from that, there hasn't been a good...
Oh, yeah. It was a good one. That was one of, by the way, one of the main reasons that I enjoyed it. All the 3D things I was going about, that became something I noticed as the film went on. But the reason I really enjoyed it, truly, is it reminded me. So I was 14 again, and it was 1 a.m, and I was watching one of those old Hammer Horror Draculas.
Right.
It was exactly the same. The costumes, we're walking into a pub, and everyone's going, "Oh, they know something."
That's what it was, dude. There were huge echoes in the movie of Prince of Darkness, the Christopher Lee one, with the garlic in the tavern and...
Right.
There's a
That's
couple
what
of
I'm
other
saying.
scenes.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And her,
Him
like,
showing
walking,
up,
her walking
on the banquet
that was
table.
Cool. That I liked straight off.
The
like,
dream sequence.
The sequence right at the beginning when she. Sorry, go on.
The dream sequence was right out of American Werewolf in London. Him looking over and seeing like a dead body, and then seeing a close up of his face and his eyes opening. That's right out of American Werewolf in London.
It was good though. I liked that bit because I thought that was cool because it had like a creepy.
It should have been called Argento's A to Z of horror, loosely slung around the Dracula story.
I liked it. I like the way the owl attacked her and then turned into him. I thought that was cool. I thought it looked cool and it did scare me. And I liked the way it was done.
Right. Listen, I had a blast watching it. I really did.
I really enjoyed it.
And I don't mean in an ironic way. I mean in a youthful, gleeful...
Yeah.
I really like that there's an old, fat, sweaty priest who screams evil. Like, that's awesome. Anyway, but, I would be remiss if I just sort of joyously went on about how great it was, because there were a lot of bits where the dialogue, the acting...
If your idea of going to a movie is to see people act and talk in a way that resembles reality, you need to find yourself another movie.
This is not your movie.
This is not that movie.
No.
It's exactly like those old 70s Italian horror films where everybody, you're thinking it must be the dubbing, right? Because the acting is appalling, the dialogue is stilted and horrifying, and it was even though most of them, as far as I could tell, barring a couple of exceptions, spoke English.
Right.
I don't think that many of them were dubbed.
The negative criticism this movie's getting is either based on people who are just like, oh, Argento's past it and blah, blah, blah. Or it's based on people literally just being too serious for their own good. Because you can't Like, to overly negatively criticize this movie would be it's a fool's errand. Listen to what it is. It's Dario Argento's Dracula in 3D. A story we've seen a million times in a format that passed its day fucking back when House of Wax was made. And done in a style, as you say, very reminiscent of Hammer Horror and blah, 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 blah.
It might as well have been called Hammer Horror Presents Dario Argento's Dracula.
Right.
Like, it was, if he'd made it for Hammer Horror back in the... If what we saw was like a reissued, like cleaned up cut from the 70s made for Hammer Horror, I wouldn't be the least surprised.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So what I'm saying is, I have a question now.
Okay, question away.
I, like you, sat watching the movie, going, I've seen Coppola's Dracula, I've seen Hammer's 15 different Draculas, I've seen Bela Lugosi's Dracula, blah, 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 blah. I've read the book, I know the story.
Which is still maybe my favourite, by the way. My favourite is still the Bela Lugosi.
The Lugosi, yeah, it's a great one. But I also thought to myself, I really wish I was watching this having not seen any of them, because I don't think it would make as much sense. I think it made sense because we've seen all the other films.
Agreed.
And then we were like, oh, okay, so that's the point where Mina does this and blah, 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 blah. But I don't think it actually explains it.
I don't think there's any harm in expecting your audience to have a shorthand to such a famous story.
Right.
He's just throwing things in for the
Also,
sake of
I have to
having...
point out something else as well.
Come.
The name Count Dracula is now so ludicrous to your ears, like in modern times, that it's no longer like scary or whatever. And then in this one, instead of saying he was Vlad the Impaler, they said he was like Tissue Pep or something.
It was like Tash Pap.
Tash Pepe. It was like he was Dracula.
He was so evil they called him Tash Pap. Did they? Or was that somebody sneezing? There are people around here who call him.
There are people around here who call him Pepe.
There are some who call me Tim.
Tim. That went through my head when that happened. But I think that, I don't know where he filmed it, but there was clearly either it's a.
Right, he filmed it in that castle that I've seen in at least 4 70s horror films.
Right. But no, what I'm saying is that small town. It looked too. I think maybe it was like a set on an Italian studio or something, because it looked too clean to be actually medieval.
Yeah, you could be right. There wasn't much there. There was like one alleyway. I think my favourite bit of utter stupidity, while we're having, because we can have a giggle.
The kids, when the horse showed up, that was incredible. Did you hear the kids overdubbed?
Oh no, what did they say?
The kids overdubbed was like, oh my god, a horse. And then the other one went, I'm going to go and make it my pet. And then the third one was like, I love horses. And then there was another shot.
More coffee? I would love some more coffee. Thank you very much.
The next shot was of the women getting out of the carriage. And then you heard off screen, they dubbed the children go, oh, look at the pretty ladies. Like, none of that was needed. If the kids had said nothing...
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Tim.
Welcome very much.
I would say
if the kids had said nothing, I'd be none the wiser.
I'll tell you what would be interesting. It would be interesting. Get a copy of the script, and if you crossed out all of the unnecessary dialogue, I'd be surprised if there was a page left.
Right.
With, would you like some eggs? Would you like some biscuits?
Oh, look at the pretty...
Will you stay for dinner? I bought lamb. Do you like lamb? I do like lamb, yeah.
Then there was a really weird cut in the early bit where the dad comes to just, so what have you been up to?
That's what he goes, what have you been up to? Next scene. No, my favourite bit was when Rutger Hauer wants to get into the shop. He goes up to the. So now most people at this point, right? They knock on the door. That would be my first choice. Would be knock on the door, right? But instead he walks up there, stands outside, and then goes, open up. Are you awake? No, just knock. That's fine. He just open up, it was and then bangs on the door, and then goes in and makes garlic bullets.
I don't know what he did, but it was most.
What was that about? What was that about, the garlic bullets?
I don't know.
It's very strange.
Still learning.
My feeling on the movie was just like,
That's right, Erica.
what did you think of Howard? Let's talk about Howard, because I have to say,
I thought there were bits when he was very good.
there was a little disappointment there.
Well, there wasn't much for him to do, to be fair.
But I kind of wanted him to come in and be like swinging with lots of bravado and quips and all the rest of it, and there wasn't any of that really.
I think the trouble is, especially if you're Rutger Hauer, is you've got to have the dialogue to make that work. If you're going to come in and be all quick, like Anthony Hopkins was in Coppola.
Being the only good thing in the Coppola one is Anthony Hopkins is hamming it up all over the place.
I still remember quite enjoying parts of it. I seem to remember even like Oldman when he was like really weird and old and creepy. Was pretty good. Anyway.
Yeah, but it's ludicrous that Coppola ever thought that would fly. Ever.
Well, it did fly. It was a huge movie. It was a huge movie.
It was a huge release, but it did no business when it came out.
That's not true. I don't think that's true. Everyone I know saw it. A few years later, there were loads of Simpsons references to it, like in the cartoon. You don't make references to the films that
I guess so.
I think it disappeared pretty quick because of how bad Reeves and Ryder were in it, but it was big.
I mean, Reeves and Ryder were a real mistake. Anyway, let's not review that movie.
Right.
Rutger Hauer in this, to me,
but
was
if you don't have the script, you can't turn up big. Like if you look at the words on the page, there's only so much you can do with it. And he decided to play it as, I've got no idea what the point of that flashback to the asylum was. What was the point of that?
we have Rutger, let's milk it through.
Well, I agree. So make it a better scene.
Give him a fake mustache.
If I were them, I'd trim out the, would you like, fucking jam with your toast lines, and have an extra 30 seconds of that scene that could potentially have been interesting. He's like, I used to run a lunatic asylum, and then flashback to lunatic asylum, he's walking down a corridor. You go, whoa, walking down a corridor, all the prisoners are going crazy, and he gets to the end of the corridor, he's at the end of the corridor, and he opens the door, and there's Dracula, and Dracula turns and goes, end. The end of the scene. What? Why? What? How? Why has this turned you into a vampire expert all of a sudden?
Almost every scene in the movie was like that.
Well, true. But it's just that I agree. They should have used him more. But I actually thought he was pretty good because he played it as he was very he was tired and probably a little bit afraid.
But I also didn't like how he kicked ass for everyone except Dracula, in which case he just got his face pummeled.
Well, that was weird because Dracula's like, well, when I get really angry, I rip people's throats out so badly that their heads fall off. Do you know what I mean? I kill a room full of 5 people in like 10, 15 seconds. But when it comes to Van Helsing, I'm just going to keep punching him. Why are you punching him? You're Dracula. You can do anything you want. Why are you punching him? Like, he's like the cop, and you're the bad guy. It was odd. That was odd.
I thought the whole ending. I think the other reason.
Yeah, the ending wasn't great.
I think the other reason why it might have had critical negativity would have been the fact that leaving the cinema, I was a bit nonplussed by the whole ending.
I didn't mind that. Well, it was a bit nonplussed. Yeah, there was a lot about it to be nonplussed by.
Because it was like, quick, let's go out to the grave of our wife, even though the sun's meant to be coming up any minute.
I didn't mind that. And I thought the grave was interesting. The way she looked like she was still lying there. No, it's all yours.
Can I have it?
Yeah. The way she was still lying there, like covered in cobwebs and stuff, that was pretty cool.
I think what was odd about it.
I didn't even mind like the way it unfolded. I didn't mind that. The gun ended up at her feet, and like there could have been like a little bit more of her coming out the trance, and there definitely should have been the whole Dracula versus Van Helsing thing should have been much better handled while she was deciding about the gun.
I mean, considering Peter Cushing was 98 when they made Satanic Rites of Dracula, and there he is leaping through windows and setting fire to shit and stuff. There was nothing to compare.
Do you always have a soft spot for Dracula films where Dracula is a bad guy?
Right.
Any vampire stories where Dracula's like, oh, he's so seductive, oh, he's so sexy. I hate that. Right. It's boring and stupid.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's all the things you hate when you were.
I liked the aspect of where Dracula was controlling the town.
Yeah, that was
And
cool.
he
Like built
helped-
through like political
Right,
manoeuvre.
he'd help the people out with debt and blah blah blah.
Right.
blah,
He makes a
blah.
pact with them. Like it was basically, you let me live here and keep your.
I'll eat
keep
a few
mouth
of your
shut.
virgins and
Every now and then, I'll swipe, some bad girl. One of the worst bits of, plot exposition dialogue was when the woman goes, "Why didn't you walk me home?" They go, "Will you walk me home?" And he goes, "You know I'm married." Who talks like that? You know I'm married.
right.
Right. Okay. What does that mean?
Not only that, but then he was like, "What about the cross I gave you?" And she was like, "Here, take the cross back." And I'm like, "No, about to walk through the haunted woods in midnight." Yeah, it was.
But again, that was quite. I like that.
That was ham-fisted,
But
pleasurably so.
But that opening, right, I thought was quite cool because it was quite, it's quite slow. The woman comes in and goes, "Oh, don't forget to keep the door shut because it's fucking
'Cause
danger." Why? Because it's fucking whatever.
She went, no, she actually did. She goes, why? And she goes, well, because it's Michaelmas Eve or some nonsense. She made up some name.
No, they did that classic thing where the daughter goes, but mother goes, because it's Michaelmas Eve, I know, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But what I thought was quite cool, and then it was like, a few minutes, while like the music was going and all the rest of it.
The music, by the way, best thing in the film.
Yeah.
Hands down, best thing in the film.
I'm not sure I get it from. But anyway, and then, she's mucking around and she's like closing the shutters, and it's all like, yeah, okay, Dracula, spooky, goings on or whatever, that's why you're closing the shutters. But what's quite cool is like when she's done closing the shutters and fixing it all up, she opens the door and walks outside. And I just thought that was quite cool. Like it was quite a cool, there's like big setup for, all right, there's dangerous things abroad and the shutters won't save you or whatever. And instead she just closes everything, does everything she's supposed to do, and then goes outside anyway. There was like a weird...
Well, that was always her plan.
Yeah, I know that was always her plan, but it didn't seem that way. I mean, I didn't know she was going to do that. Oh, fine, I didn't know she was going to do that. I quite liked that she was doing the shutters and all the rest of it, and then went outside. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Okay. No,
and I liked the opening thing of the way the camera went down all the streets and stuff.
The Tim Burton-esque opening,
Yeah, it was kind of Burton-esque, but I liked it was like spooky and like you were there.
I wanted the whole movie to be like that. Meaning that that was really effective 3D, them going down the lanes at the beginning with the camera.
Yeah, but that was all computer generated, that was all computer animated.
But it was like a kind of roller coaster type thing, and I could have gone for more of that. I could have, I think my main downside with the film was that there was a lot to like about it. Lot to like about it. There were some set pieces that were
gravy.
What?
I thought very good gravy.
Oh, I liked it.
Okay.
There was a lot to commend it. Like, I loved the set piece where he destroyed the town. I loved the few kills that Helsing got in before the fight. I loved the music. I liked, the dream sequence was fine. Some of the castle scenes were fine. The opening scene was fine, although it had that ludicrous ending. I liked some of the ideas in it. I liked him being a kind of the burgomaster of the town kind of thing, but also while killing people. I liked the wolves and things like that. That was all fine. So there's a lot of good things in it. My main problem was that those good things were not sustained when they could have been. They were all very come and go, rather than I like the opening with the the camera going through all the alleyways and stuff. And I just thought if you had been a bit more excitable with the camera in certain scenes, that would have been good. The other thing that I would question as well about the whole movie was that while the interiors and some of the special effects shots were lit or coloured nicely and in an interesting way, there was a lot of wandering around in the daytime where they hadn't really made a lot of effort to kind of make it spooky spooky. Like it wasn't. It could because of its sort of gothic nature, and because of the kind of gothic tale he was doing, and because of the imagery that he chose to employ with like the castle and the wolves and the blood and the teeth and all the rest of it. And with the hammer horror feeling, and with when he went into the tavern, it looked great. But like walking around outside the tavern, you were like, oh, this looks like a quaint little touristy town. You might wander around in France. You know what I mean?
But I quite like.
And when Jonathan Harker first got to the castle, instead of it being a bit fun and a bit gothic-y and a bit like maybe there's clouds and maybe there's some lightning or something, instead of that, he just kind of rides up on his horse in the daylight and wanders in as if he's like late for the tour. You know what I mean?
No, but I quite liked the. I mean, I agree with you on that one. I thought that the castle did look pretty spooky.
I'm saying that where Coppola was interesting in his choice was that he clearly made it like a hammer horror film. So it was done on sets and there was a lot of shadow play and a lot of lighting and a lot of whatever. But he purposely went, no, my stylistic decision is to go old Universal stroke hammer horror gothic. Smoke and clouds and lightning and glowing red eyes and shadow play and all the rest of it.
Right.
And it felt like this movie was sort of one step away from employing a similar technique but in a more sort of Italian, brightly coloured type way. And you could have still had like the bright colours and the vibrant things and the kind of pretty painting-like images, but you could have done them with a bit more goth grit to them.
I agree, but I think the way to look at it, if I was going to be fair to it, I would say
we are talking so seriously about Argento's Dracula.
Yeah. But I would say that about 60% of the movie captured his interest. He's obviously getting on a bit, and there's parts of it where he just wants to get them from A to B. And then something will happen in the movie. He'll be set up or whatever, or before he even gets to filming it, he's got it planned out. Like clearly, the motif of people looking out of windows with that particular effect that I thought was really cool. That appeared over and over again throughout the movie. So he clearly thought about that.
I thought the guy who played Renfield before he became mental in the early
he was really good. Yeah,
was really good. And I was like, oh, please let him have some babbling like master this stuff. And then he kind of didn't. And then he was kind of wasted the rest of the movie.
That's what I'm saying. I think
he could have been a really interesting character actor.
He could have, but he was the only one that was doing any proper acting.
He was great when he attacked them all at the graveside. That was amazing.
I believed, he blamed the guy and it was his fault. There was some interesting things. There were a lot of interesting things in the movie, and I agree. There are parts that are very functional, not done very well, and he's just moving.
Piano lesson.
What the hell is that about? Right, and that went on for like this piano lesson is going like far long.
All they were doing was going up the piano. They weren't even doing scales or whatever. They were just going all all the way up.
Her lesson is do it faster.
Could you do the same thing but do it quicker?
Yeah.
And then she did it quicker.
End of lesson.
And then she went, I think that's all we've got time for today.
If I was her father, right, I'd be back there the very same day and saying something along the lines of, I'm paying you for this. She's been here a month, and all she can do is go. Now, she can do that quickly, I'll grant you, right? But if you think
her pace,
no question, the pace is excellent,
right.
But I am getting pretty sick and tired of sitting in my house and hearing and it didn't even end on a scale.
It wasn't a scale.
It wasn't a scale. But there's one more note in your scale.
But Asia Argento was very good at doing, or Asia Argento, however you pronounce it.
Asia Argento.
It's Asia.
Asia Argento, yeah.
But anyway, she
was rotten. She might as well have been a kipper in a bag. A kipper, like melting through a paper bag, I would have been more effective.
I think that I was definitely sickened and unnerved during her naked scene.
She's just a bit past it, and I don't mean like looking or anything, but just the whole thing is like, this is tiresome.
I understand that they're Italian and European, and I understand and all that means, and I understand that they're like, no, but I'm a director and you are an actress, and it's absolutely fine, because it's not real, you're just acting.
I think he's actually of course it's creepy. I'm a creepy man. I make creepy movies. right? You know what? You know what put food on your table? Because I'm creepy, right?
Yeah.
How did you end up being a huge movie star with like being able to do well, not a huge movie star, but a movie star who presumably doesn't probably have to work again in her life, having been in what she's been in, and she's probably relatively happy and so's her family. And he would argue that is because I'm creepy. I'm sorry that I had to involve you. I really am.
Yeah.
But I did because I'm creepy. But if I wasn't creepy, if I was a good father and brought you up well and you had a really well adjusted childhood, I never would have made those movies.
No.
And we'd be sitting in Italy right now, I don't know,
Eating our own feet.
eating kippers in bags.
What I do like is that for no reason at all, like the flies bit where Dracula came in as flies is obviously a homage to both Suspiria, but also
that was cool. I like that.
the Phenomenon, or whatever the name, the Jennifer Connelly, Donald Pleasance one, Phenomena.
And I think I know that one.
Flies. Oh yeah.
Who did that?
Argento.
Oh, it's like a ballet thing? Is there a
No,
ballet?
that's Profondo Rosso. No, wait a minute. No, ballet is Sleepless. At the end of Sleepless, she's like, oh no, it's because Sleepless, they're killing everyone based on a nursery rhyme book that was written before. And
I think I only ever saw one Argento, and it had something to do with the ballet school. Is that one?
Well,
It was a
ballet
long time
in
ago.
Sleepless.
Maybe that was it then.
Anyway, the flies thing was absolutely fun. The coming upstairs as a giant praying mantis made no sense.
It didn't, but then it worked.
No, but I'll tell you why. It made no sense. Everything else he turned into was normal size.
That's true.
The owl, normal size. The flies, normal size. The wolves, normal
If he turned
size.
into a fly the size of like a bus, that would have been pretty fucking spooky. Fuck it out.
I like the way that when he recorporealized from the flies, there were a few flies on his face and they like crawled under his skin.
Yeah, that was cool. I liked a lot of that. I liked the way that he became and it wasn't.
If you didn't hear that, I said they crawled under his skin. Someone laughed at the same time.
I'm pretty sure they're in a. I'm pretty sure that the guy in the glasses is the lead singer of a moderately successful mid-2000s American band, but I don't know which one.
No, they've been talking a lot about the music industry.
It's definitely them. I don't know who it is. I think it's Death Cab for Cutie or possibly Modest Mouse. One of them, I think.
Yeah, you've lost me. It's all gone.
Well, they're both. Well, Death Cab for Cutie. No, Death Cab for Cutie is a good songs. And Modest Mouse did some very, very good songs.
Anyway, let's go back to Dracula Street.
She over there is an actress. The one that walked in on you in the lane.
Yeah.
Is she an actress? She looks bloody familiar.
I don't know.
I think it's quite cool that I think there's an actress over there and Modest Mouse. It might not be Modest Mouse, but I definitely know him from somewhere.
All right, dude, it doesn't matter.
Or Benjamin let me get an autograph. Like Benjamin likes Modest Mouse.
But you're not getting an autograph. You're not going over there and saying, excuse me, you from one of this selection of mid-millennium dribble.
Excuse me, are you from Modest Mouse or Death Cab for Cutie?
Stop saying it really loudly in case.
He's probably in neither. I don't think it's Death Cab because I think Death Cab plays a lot fatter.
He's probably in Quiche for Paulie.
Quiche for Paulie. You could have chosen any word in the English language to stick together, and you went for quiche for Paulie.
It makes as much sense.
That sounds like a Scorsese documentary. You know, I used to come in here during the 50s, and every Thursday was the same old story. Quiche for Paulie. And then the Rolling Stones track. Hey, Paulie, want some quiche?
Lots of slow-mo.
Scorsese movies are all the same.
Your face! Where you going?
That is basically a Scorsese movie. 3 hours people going,
This quiche!
because the fucking quiche for Paulie.
You're actually killing me. I'm actually dying of laughter. Oh God, I wish this was a video podcast.
No, sorry about that. But anyway, to wrap up,
we do need to one day film.
Yeah, we could do that. I'd be more than happy to. I mean, I really think, for example, a after movie diner, film program would be really good. Remind me afterwards to talk to you about an idea I had that might look in your CV. Oh, and something else too.
No, I'm just saying, like, if one night if we went out at like 3 a.m. where it wasn't so busy, and we just had someone sat there with a camera and someone sat there with a camera, and we could just cut back and forth.
I don't think the only way we'd get away with it is if we did it without them knowing. I'd have to get a very small digital camera and put it on the end of the table, and I hope that the table's long enough or the frame's wide enough to have us in it. I understand why you want to do cross-cutting, but I'm guessing they would. I don't think it's like England where they're like a little bit like, ooh, you want to film? That's kind of cool. You know what I mean? Here, I think it's like, sure, we need permits and lots of money because everybody wants to film here. You know what I mean?
I bet the Green Kitchen would let us.
I think if we probably killed enough mice for them, probably would. Is the Green Kitchen nice? I forgot. Which one's the Green Kitchen?
The Green Kitchen was nice, and now it's a grade pen. Anyway, we're way off the topic. Ultimately, Dracula 3D, anyone who believes this is the worst movie or whatever they're calling it online or giving it half a star.
It has definitely become... Sorry.
No, I'm saying, anyone who honestly believes that has not seen a bad film. You just haven't. No. If you have not gone to B movies or have any comprehension of what a bad film actually is. This is far from a bad film. Are there long, boring, tedious scenes in it? Yes. But is there a certain, chuckle joy from seeing some of them? Yes. So it's not like you can really... I was a bit bored in some of it, but at no point was I restless. At no point did I wish I hadn't shown up. At no point... was it so horrible that I was like, oh my God, Pacific Rim was worse than this movie.
Yes, Avatar, Pacific Rim, Avatar as a 3D spectacle was much worse than this movie.
Yeah.
Avatar was a cartoon for boring people, by boring people.
At no point did the blue cartoon cat people wave a dagger at the screen. Had they done so, I would have been considerably happier.
We would have been a bit confused.
Right.
Blue cat people who walked on the middle of Dracula 3D and waved the dagger and then walked off again.
There was a great shot where Helsing and the woman were sat on chairs opposite each other. And it was a straight-on shot, and the chairs were straight on, but they were facing each other. And it was shot as if from the fireplace, with them sat there, and he was telling her the whole story and blah 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 blah. And it was so framed that I just wanted Howard to turn around and go, and that was Stories with Van Helsing. Next time, because it looked like
next week I'll be talking to.
It looked like it was set up like a Regis and Kelly or one of those.
I would see that. I would pay to see a chat show where Rutger Hauer,
pretending to be Van Helsing,
interviews famous victims to be.
Yeah, right.
So you're the small child at the end of Frankenstein.
Interesting.
How do you feel about being thrown into a river by a monster? Is it ice cream? Oranges.
Oranges are... No, the orange maker is still turned off. That's probably coffee or grinding up a pig.
Grinding up something. I would say about Dario Argento's Dracula 3D, if that's the official title, I would say it is definitely now one of my... I'm not going to say like mice, but one of my favourite Dracula stories.
Would you own it on Blu-ray 3D if you had a Blu-ray 3D?
If I had a 3D player, yes, I would definitely watch it again. Genuinely, I would. Bela Lugosi is the favourite one. I really like the Hammer horror one too. The silent movie Nosferatu, that is really good. But I don't really see that as a Dracula story anyway. Not really. In terms of Mina Harker, Jonathan Harker, Count Dracula, the cast of that whole story. This was a really, really good one. It was a really good telling of that tale. I really enjoyed it. I would hardly recommend it.
I think your brain is filling in some of the gaping holes that this movie left lying around the place.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't well acted, and the dialogue was terrible.
No. I'm saying the gaping holes in terms of, I think the reason why we enjoyed it is we went in with no expectations, and we have a history of watching Dracula stories. So it was, at no point was I like, sorry, what's going on now? I knew always what was going
that's
on
true.
because I know the story. But I think if I didn't know the story and I watched this, I would be like, what on earth is going on?
But everybody knows Dracula. Everybody's seen at least one Dracula movie. Everybody knows Dracula.
Right.
It's just, maybe I just am happy to watch a film about vampires where I'm not supposed to think vampires are cool.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And I think that the
Vampires aren't
the guy who
cool.
played Dracula did it with a straight face.
He was pretty good. I liked him.
And did it with appropriate gusto when necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
And true emotion, like when he was talking
He
about
was
his
a
wife
nice
and
mixture
stuff.
of like creepy,
Sympathetic
and a
threatening.
little bit sympathetic. But he wasn't like cool. I didn't look at him and go, wow, he's so cool.
No.
I must get him to sell digital watches.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. I could have done with a big face-off between him and Helsing.
I agree. I think that was.
But it may have been like Rooker might have been like, look, you've got me here, you're paying me.
I tell you one really cool thing.
Yeah, just a little.
Well, in which case, to sum up, I would say I really, really enjoyed it, and I would thoroughly recommend it, and we better go and catch the tube back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would only recommend it seeing it in 3D. That's the only way I would recommend seeing it.
My ultimate review of it was I went in with low expectations, and I went in being someone who doesn't hold Argento in some sort of godly state, and being someone who generally enjoys schlocky B-movies with a little bit of style and class to them, and just delivered. It wasn't good by a lot of other standards, but it was perfectly good for what I was hoping it would be.
Agreed.
Enjoyable, lots of fun stuff about it, and huge hoots that he believes a piano lesson is simply someone going up and down the piano keyboard incessantly.
There would be an interesting. If I was so inclined, it would be an interesting movie if you took all the unnecessary bits of Dracula and put them together. Do you know what I mean? Like that movie, to cut all the conversations and the piano lessons and all the things that made no sense and went nowhere. You know, that would be like a good 20-minute movie.
Cut them out and just watch that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like it would be interesting to watch, like a 20-minute movie of like complete dead film, like nothing of any use is being.
Right.
It doesn't look good. No one's acting properly. There's no character revelation.
Films that are just like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I can point you towards mucho films that are like that.
All right, anyway, I would, if you can go see it 3D or have some way of seeing it 3D, and you enjoy like spectacular things, then I would definitely watch it.
Yeah, I think it's worth a watch, and I mean, especially for people who like B movies.
Yeah, if you like a good B movie, yeah, definitely.
It's definitely a good B movie.
Yeah,
it's not made with any sense of it being a grandiose A picture, even by Italian standards. It's made. People might not be able to accept it in these days, but there are still people out there making the same kind of schlocky crap they made in the 80s, and you all sit around and watch that and love them to bits, so there's no reason not to do the same with this, except snobbery and pretension.
Agreed. Well, I enjoyed it.
Well, thanks ever so much.
If they want to hit me up for a quote for their poster,
I'll put it out there. Anyway,
yeah, I don't know.
Someone's watching TV behind us, so let's wrap this up. Thanks ever so much for coming in the diner. I had a great time.
I had a lovely time, as always. It was great. It was a great cinema, really interesting, unique movie experience that I would not have been able to have anywhere else in the world.
And we need to get the
and a really lovely dinner.
Yeah.
So we'll get the chat.
But I like to hear Waverley Diner.
They're going to take cards, right? Oh, you're paying anyway, so.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, well, I got the $0.06. Excuse me. Can we get the check? Thanks.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I had just one heart, but I used it. Falling in love with you. But you took my heart and abused it. Now what is a poor boy to do? After such a short time, can't believe that I lost it. Leaving my chest started out as sweethearts when we were just 19. The whole world felt brand new. I wish I'd sacrificed any other organ, yeah, even my spleen, the day I fell in love with you. But it felt so right, this feeling between us. How could I predict it would leave me feeling blue? 'Cause I had this one heart and I used it by falling in love with you. Well, I've been to see a doctor, I've been to see a priest, yeah, hell, I've even been to see Diane Wiest. Their prognosis was bleak, no hope behind their eyes. They said, boy, there is something you should realize. There's nothing left of your heart, no replacement in sight. But that's sort of like losing weight, right? Oh, I wandered the streets in a battered old shoe, thinking about the time I lost my heart by falling in love with you. Well, now I'm left with the worry of bad self in one man. What happens if I fall in love with somebody new? Well, maybe they can just put the pieces back together again using something industrial like love glue. Or maybe they could just be patient, because maybe Diane Waste will come through with a solution for my heart. 'Cause I used it when I fell in love with you. Yeah, I had but one heart and I used it. It's falling in love with you. I had one heart and I used it when I fell in love with you. Yeah, I fell in love with you.
There are men, and then there are second unit podcast men. The podcast you've just been listening to is part of the Second Unit Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at 2upn.blogspot.com or on Facebook under the Second Unit Podcast Network. Our fantastic list of shows include Drunk on VHS, We Came from the Basement, No Budget Nightmares, The After Movie Diner, Dr. Action and the Kick-Ass Kid, and Bloodbaths and Boomsticks. Take one podcast into the shower. Don't be a blithering idiot, Alan. We can give you the multiple podcast cleansing system all in one place that your hair deserves. Our programming is available across all platforms, from iTunes to Podomatic, TalkShoe to Stitcher, so you have absolutely no excuse. Listen today, and a free naked person of your choice will be shipped from Thailand to your door in a matter of weeks. The Second Unit Podcast Network, bringing you the action and leaving the boring stuff to the other guys. Bloody hell. Who does a girl have to blow around here to get a decent beverage?